My 13-year-old son asked me why Mom was lying about her business trips. One phone call to her assistant exposed everything. I followed my wife to a luxury hotel and watched her kiss another man like they'd done it 1,000 times. While she thought she was playing me, I was planning her destruction. By the time she came home, everything she thought was hers was gone. My name is Dalton Mercer. I'm 45 years old, and for the past 18 years, I've been running Smokemaster Barbecue, a custom barbecue equipment company here in Austin, Texas. Started it from nothing in my garage, building smokers and grills for folks who take their barbecue seriously. Now I've got a 5,000 square foot workshop, 3 full-time employees, and customers from Houston to Dallas who swear by my work. I married Joanna 15 years ago when she was working as a pharmaceutical sales rep. Smart woman, ambitious, knew how to work a room. She climbed the ladder fast, and now she's a regional director pulling in 6 figures. We had our son Miles when I was 32. Kid's 13 now, plays baseball, gets good grades, and until recently I thought we had the perfect family. Our house sits on 2 acres just outside the city limits. Nothing fancy, but it's ours. Joanna always wanted something bigger, more impressive, but I liked having space for my workshop and room for Miles to run around. The mortgage was paid off 3 years ago, something I was proud of. But about 6 months ago, things started changing. Little things at first. Joanna would come home late from work, claiming client dinners or training sessions. Her phone started buzzing at odd hours, and she'd grab it quick, stepping outside to take calls. When I asked about it, she'd wave her hand and say it was work stress, new territory demands, that kind of thing. The first real red flag came on a Tuesday evening in March. I was in the workshop testing a new smoker design when our landline rang. We still keep one for the business, and sometimes personal calls come through. Mercer residence. I answered, wiping grease off my hands with a shop rag. "Oh, hi, Dalton. It's Patricia from Joanna's office," came the cheerful voice. Patricia was Joanna's assistant, sweet girl who'd helped coordinate some company events we'd attended. "Hey, Patricia, what's up?" I asked, already knowing Joanna wasn't home yet. I was just calling to confirm Joanna's vacation days for next week. She put in for Thursday and Friday, said she had family obligations. I wanted to make sure I had the right dates for coverage. I frowned, setting down my wrench. Family obligations? Yeah, she mentioned something about helping with her sister's wedding preparations in San Antonio. The problem was Joanna's sister Sarah had been married for 3 years, and she lived in Portland, Oregon. There was no wedding, no San Antonio trip that I knew about. "You know what, Patricia?" I said, keeping my voice steady. "Let me have Joanna call you back about those dates. I think there might be some confusion." "Sure thing. No problem at all." After I hung up, I stood in my workshop for a long time, staring at the half-built smoker in front of me. The smell of metal and grease suddenly felt heavier. That night, when Joanna came home around 9, I asked her about her plans for the following week. "Just work stuff," she said, not looking up from her phone. "Busy time with a new product launch." I nodded, but something cold settled in my stomach. That was the moment I knew our marriage was built on something that wasn't solid anymore. The next few weeks, I started watching closer. Not because I wanted to catch Joanna in a lie, but because something in my gut told me to pay attention. When you've been building smokers for 18 years, you learn to trust your instincts about when something's not burning right. Joanna had always been particular about her schedule, but now it seemed like every other day brought some new obligation. Client dinners in downtown Austin, weekend seminars in Houston, training sessions that ran late into the evening. She'd come home smelling like expensive restaurants and wine, talking about pharmaceutical industry trends I'd never heard her mention before. One evening in early April, I was closing up the workshop when I heard her car pull into the driveway. I glanced at my watch. 9:30 p.m. Another late night. Through the kitchen window, I watched her sit in her BMW for almost 10 minutes before getting out, just staring at her phone with this strange expression on her face. "Long day?" I asked when she finally came inside. Joanna startled, like she'd forgotten I existed. "Oh yes. Very long. This new territory is killing me. How's that client situation working out? The one Patricia called about." She paused while hanging up her blazer, her back to me. "Which client?" "The one in San Antonio. The family obligation thing." "Oh, that." She turned around, forcing a smile. "It got resolved. No big deal. But there had never been a client in San Antonio. Just like there had never been a sister's wedding." I nodded like I believed her, But inside, something was shifting. 2 days later, Miles came home from baseball practice looking confused. I was in the kitchen making dinner when he dropped his gear bag and grabbed his soda from the fridge. "Dad, is Mom working with a new company or something?" Miles asked, popping open his Coke. "Not that I know of." "Why?" "Coach Williams saw her at lunch today. Said she was at that fancy steakhouse downtown with some guy in a suit. He waved, but she didn't see him." I stopped stirring the chili I was making. "Did Coach say what time this was?" "Around noon, I think. He said the guy looked important, like a boss or something." Joanna had told me she was spending the day at the office, working on quarterly reports. The fancy steakhouse downtown was Morton's, not exactly the kind of place you go for a working lunch with pharmaceutical clients. That night, after Miles went to bed, I asked Joanna about her day. "Boring office work," she said, scrolling through her phone. "Reports, meetings, the usual. Didn't get out for lunch. Grabbed a sandwich at my desk." Another lie, smooth as silk. She was getting good at this. I went to bed that night knowing I had a choice to make. I could keep pretending everything was normal, or I could find out what my wife was really doing during all those late nights and mysterious lunch meetings. The next morning, while Joanna was in the shower, I made my decision. I was going to follow her. Following your wife isn't something any man plans to do. But when the foundation of your life starts shifting under your feet, you do what you have to do to find solid ground again. I waited until Thursday morning. Joanna left for work at her usual time, 7:30 a.m., kissing me goodbye and telling me she had back-to-back meetings all day. I gave her a 20-minute head start, then climbed into my F-250 and headed toward downtown Austin. Her office building was a glass tower in the business district, and I found a coffee shop across the street with a clear view of the parking garage. My truck stuck out like a sore thumb among all the sedans and hybrids, but I didn't care. I ordered black coffee and settled in near the window. At 11:15 a.m., I saw Joanna's BMW exit the garage. She turned left, heading away from downtown instead of toward any client meeting I knew about. I left money on the table and followed, keeping 2 cars between us. She drove to the Four Seasons Hotel on Cesar Chavez Street. Not somewhere you meet pharmaceutical clients. This was where Austin's elite went for private dinners and weekend getaways. I watched from the parking lot as she walked through the lobby doors, confident and purposeful, like she belonged there. I waited in my truck for 2 hours. When she finally emerged, she wasn't alone. A tall man in an expensive suit walked beside her, his hand resting on the small of her back. They stood talking near the valet stand, and I could see them laughing about something. Then he leaned down and kissed her forehead before getting into a black Mercedes. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight, I thought it might bend. This wasn't a business meeting. This wasn't pharmaceutical industry networking. This was my wife with another man, acting like they owned the world. I followed the Mercedes from a distance. The license plate read W.M. Marsh, Warren Marsh. I memorized it, along with his face. Tall, probably mid-40s, silver at his temples. The kind of guy who wore $1,000 suits and $50,000 watches. When I got home that evening, Joanna was already in the kitchen, cooking dinner like nothing had happened. "How was your day?" she asked, not looking up from the stove. "Good. Productive. How were your meetings?" "Exhausting," she said with a sigh. "Clients can be so demanding." I nodded, watching her move around the kitchen with that same confidence I'd seen at the hotel. "What's for dinner?" "Your favorite. Barbecue chicken." The irony wasn't lost on me. She was cooking my favorite meal on the same day I watched her kiss another man. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying what I'd seen. The way Warren Marsh had touched her back, the familiarity in their body language, the easy laugh they shared. This wasn't new. They had a rhythm, a comfort level that spoke of time and intimacy. The next morning, after Joanna left for work and Miles headed to school, I fired up my laptop and started digging. Warren Marsh wasn't hard to find. He owned Marsh Development, a commercial real estate company with projects throughout Texas. Married, 2 kids, big house in Westlake. His company website showed him cutting ribbons and shaking hands with city officials. I called my buddy Jake Patterson, who'd done some investigation work for insurance companies before starting his own security firm. We'd known each other since high school, and I trusted him to keep his mouth shut. "Jake, I need a favor," I said when he answered. "What kind of favor?" "The kind that stays between us." There was a pause. "Personal or business?" "Personal." I need someone looked into. Your wife. How'd you know? Man, I've been doing this for 15 years. When a guy calls asking for discreet investigation, it's usually about his wife. What do you need to know? I gave him Warren Marsh's name and what little information I gathered. Jake said he'd have a preliminary report within 48 hours. Meanwhile, I started paying closer attention to patterns. Joanna's late nights coincided with Warren's company events. I could see them posted on his business social media. Her overnight trips aligned with his travel schedule, which was listed on several industry websites. The hardest part was acting normal around Miles. That Friday evening, we were throwing a football in the backyard when he asked about the weekend plans. Mom said she's going to Houston tomorrow for some pharmaceutical conference. Miles said, catching my pass. You working this weekend? Probably. Got a big smoker order to finish. Cool. Maybe we can grab burgers for lunch tomorrow. Just as guys. Sound good, son. But my mind was already working. If Joanna was supposedly going to Houston, I bet money Warren Marsh would be out of town too. I was right. His company's LinkedIn page showed he was speaking at a commercial development conference in Dallas that weekend. Saturday morning, Joanna packed her overnight bag with the same careful attention I'd been noticing lately. She kissed me goodbye and told me she'd be back Sunday evening. Drive safe, I said, meaning it despite everything. After she left, I called Jake. I've got some preliminary information on your guy. Jake said, Warren Marsh, 44 years old, owns Marsh Development. Clean record, good reputation in business circles. But here's the interesting part. He's been staying at Austin hotels 3 times a month for the past 6 months, even though he lives in Dallas. Which hotels? Four Seasons, mostly. Sometimes the Driscoll. High-end places. The pieces were falling into place, and none of them painted a picture I wanted to see. Jake's full report arrived on Monday morning. I opened it in my workshop, surrounded by the familiar smell of sawdust and steel, but nothing felt familiar anymore. 23 pages of photographs, receipts, phone records, and timeline analysis. My 15-year marriage laid out like a crime scene investigation. Warren Marsh and Joanna had been meeting regularly for 8 months. Hotel receipts showed overnight stays at the Four Seasons, the Driscoll, even weekend trips to San Antonio and Dallas. Credit card statements revealed expensive dinners, jewelry purchases, and gifts I'd never seen. The phone records were the worst part. Hundreds of text messages, some sent while she was sitting right next to me on the couch. Late-night calls that lasted hours, happening when she claimed to be working late or attending conferences. I was studying a photograph of them kissing outside a restaurant when Miles walked into the workshop. Dad, what's all that? He asked, nodding toward the papers spread across my workbench. I quickly gathered the documents into a pile. Just business stuff, son. But Miles had seen enough. He pointed to one photo that had slipped out, Joanna and Warren holding hands outside the Four Seasons. Is that Mom? Miles asked quietly. I looked at my 13-year-old son, his baseball glove still in his hand from practice, and realized I couldn't protect him from this anymore. He was going to find out eventually, and it should come for me. Yeah, that's Mom, I said. Who's the guy? Someone she works with. Miles wasn't stupid. He could see the intimacy in the photograph, the way they stood close together, the obvious affection between them. They're more than just work friends, aren't they? He asked. I sat down on my work stool and looked at my son. Yeah, they are. Miles was quiet for a long moment, staring at the photo. When he looked up at me, there was something different in his eyes, older, sadder. How long have you known? He asked. A few weeks. What are you going to do? That was the question I'd been wrestling with. Part of me wanted to confront Joanna immediately, to lay all the evidence on the kitchen table and demand explanations. But another part of me, the part that had built a successful business from nothing, knew that patience and planning would serve me better. I'm going to handle it, I told Miles. But right now, I need you to keep this between us. Can you do that? Miles nodded. Dad, are you and Mom getting divorced? I don't know yet, son. But whatever happens, nothing changes between you and me. You understand that? Yeah, he said, but his voice was shaky. That night at dinner, I watched Joanna across the table, chatting about her day, asking Miles about his upcoming baseball tournament. She played the perfect wife and mother, all while planning her next rendezvous with Warren Marsh. I might have to travel more in the coming weeks, she said casually. New client demands. I nodded. Whatever you need to do. She had no idea that her perfect deception was about to collapse. 2 weeks later, Joanna announced another business trip. This time, she claimed it was a pharmaceutical conference in San Antonio, Friday through Sunday. I didn't bother checking her story. I already knew where she'd really be. Thursday evening, she packed her bag with the same care I'd been watching for months. Expensive lingerie I'd never seen before, perfume she saved for special occasions, her best jewelry. The conference starts early Friday, she explained, zipping up her suitcase. I'll probably be in meetings all weekend. Drive safe, I said, kissing her cheek. Friday morning, after she left, I began executing the plan I'd been developing for weeks. First, I moved our money. Joanna and I had joint accounts at 3 different banks, but I also maintained a separate business account she rarely paid attention to. Over the course of the morning, I transferred everything to that account and opened a new personal account in only my name. Next, I called my lawyer, Tom Bradley, who'd handled the legal work when I bought the land for my workshop. Tom, I need to discuss divorce proceedings, I said. What's the situation, Dalton? Adultery. I have extensive documentation. How extensive? Photos, receipts, phone records, hotel bills. Everything. Bring it all on Monday morning. With evidence like that, we can protect your assets and ensure you get primary custody of your son. That afternoon, I drove to a storage unit facility outside Austin and rented space. I spent the rest of the day moving my most valuable tools, important documents, and personal items that mattered to me. Not everything. I didn't want Joanna to notice anything missing when she got home. Just the things I couldn't replace. Saturday evening, I was cleaning my workshop when my phone rang. Joanna. Hey, honey, she said, her voice bright and cheerful. Just wanted to check in. How's the conference? Boring presentations, but good networking opportunities. I might be late getting home Sunday. No problem. Miles and I are doing fine. Give him my love. I'll see you both tomorrow night. I hung up and looked at Miles, who was helping me organize tools. Was that Mom? He asked. Yeah. Where is she really? I showed him the current location on Warren Marsh's social media. A resort in Fredericksburg, Texas. Same weekend Joanna was supposedly at her pharmaceutical conference. She's not coming back to the same house, is she? Miles asked. No, son, she's not. Sunday evening, while Joanna was driving home from her fake conference, I placed an envelope on her dresser drawer in our bedroom. Inside were copies of every photograph, every receipt, every piece of evidence Jake had gathered. Divorce papers, already filed and served. And a simple note, when you're ready to tell the truth, call my lawyer. When she walked into our empty house, because Miles and I had moved to a temporary apartment that afternoon, she found exactly what her betrayal had earned her. Nothing. Joanna's first call came at 11:47 p.m. Sunday night. I was in the temporary apartment with Miles, helping him set up his new bedroom, when my phone started buzzing. Where are you? Joanna's voice was shaking with rage when I answered. Somewhere safe. You took our son. You can't just kidnap him and disappear. I didn't kidnap him, Joanna. I'm his father, and he chose to come with me after he learned about your affair. My what? I don't know what you think you saw, but dash. I saw the photos, Joanna. All of them. 8 months of hotel receipts, restaurant bills, and cozy weekends with Warren Marsh. Jake Patterson is very thorough. The line went quiet. Then, Yemi followed. I had my wife investigated because she was lying to me every single day. Dalton, please. We can fix this. It was a mistake, a moment of weakness. Warren doesn't mean anything to me. 8 months isn't a moment, Joanna. It's a choice you made repeatedly while looking me in the eye and lying. The next morning, she showed up at my workshop. I was there early, trying to maintain some normalcy by working on a custom smoker order, when she walked through the door in yesterday's clothes. Makeup smeared, looking like she hadn't slept. We need to talk, she said. No, we don't. Talk to my lawyer. Dalton, please. Think about Miles. Do you really want to put him through a divorce? He needs both his parents. He had both his parents until you decided Warren Marsh was more important than your family. Joanna started crying then, the kind of dramatic tears she'd used to manipulate me for years. But I wasn't the same man who'd fallen for that anymore. I made a mistake, she sobbed. I was lonely. You were always working, and Warren paid attention to me. But it's over now. I'll never see him again. You're right about one thing. I said, not looking up from my work. It's over. What about our house? Our life together? The house sold last week. As for our life together, you ended that when you started sleeping with Warren. Her tears stopped instantly. You sold our house. I sold my house. Your name was never on the deed. You bastard. You planned this whole thing. I protected myself and my son from a woman who's been lying to us for 8 months. That's what men do, Joanna. They protect their families. She stormed out, but I knew this was just the beginning. Cornered animals fight dirty, and Joanna was about to show me just how dirty she could get. That afternoon, she tried a different approach. She went to Miles' school and attempted to pick him up early, claiming a family emergency. The school called me first, as I'd requested when I enrolled him. Mrs. Mercer is here for Miles, the secretary said. But she seems upset, and Miles asked us to call you. Don't release him to her, I said. I'll be right there. When I arrived, Joanna was in the principal's office arguing with the staff. Through the window, I could see Miles in the hallway, his backpack clutched tight, looking scared. Joanna, I said, walking into the office. Leave him alone. He's my son, too. Then act like his mother instead of trying to use him as a weapon. The principal, Mrs. Davidson, cleared her throat. Mr. Mercer, do you have legal custody documentation? I handed her the temporary custody order my lawyer had filed. Until the divorce is finalized, Miles stays with me. Joanna's face went red. This isn't over, Dalton. Yes, it is. 2 months later, I was building a custom outdoor kitchen for a client in Round Rock when my phone rang. Tom Bradley, my lawyer. Dalton, good news. Joanna's attorney wants to negotiate a settlement. What kind of settlement? She's willing to accept a no-contest divorce in exchange for limited visitation rights with Miles and a small financial settlement. How small? $50,000. In exchange, she relinquishes all claims to your business, property, and future earnings. It was more than fair, considering she'd walked away from our marriage with another man. What does Miles think about visitation? That's up to you and him to decide. That evening, I talked to Miles over dinner in our new house, a smaller place, but ours. He'd been doing better in the weeks since we'd moved. His grades improving, his mood lighter. Your mom wants to see you regularly, I told him. Miles pushed food around his plate. Do I have to? Not if you don't want to. But she is still your mother. She lied to both of us for months, Dad. How am I supposed to trust her? You don't have to trust her. But maybe, someday, you might want a relationship with her again. That door should stay open. What if I just want to see her sometimes, like holidays or something? That's your choice, son. 3 weeks later, the divorce was finalized. Joanna got her $50,000 and supervised visitation twice a month. I got everything else. My business, my tools, my integrity, and most importantly, my son's respect. 6 months after that, I was delivering a custom smoker to a barbecue restaurant in San Marcos when I met Iris Hart. She owned the place, a tough, smart woman who'd built her business from nothing, just like I had. She understood hard work, honest dealing, and the value of keeping your word. This is beautiful craftsmanship, she said, running her hands over the smoker's steel surface. Built to last, I replied, just like anything worth having. I looked at her, this woman who spoke my language, who understood that the best things in life are built with patience and care. Would you like to have dinner sometime? Somewhere that's not your restaurant. She smiled. I'd like that. As I drove home that evening, I realized something. Joanna's betrayal hadn't destroyed me. It had freed me. Freed me to build something real with someone who understood what loyalty meant. Some fires burn everything down. Others just clear away what shouldn't have been there in the first place. A year and a half after the divorce, just when I thought Joanna had finally accepted reality, she made one last desperate play. It was a Thursday evening in October when she called, her voice different, calmer, more calculating. Dalton, I need to see you. It's about Miles. What about him? Not over the phone. Meet me at the coffee shop on South Lamar tomorrow morning. Against my better judgment, I agreed. When I arrived, Joanna was already there, dressed professionally, makeup perfect, looking like the successful pharmaceutical executive she still was. You look good, she said as I sat down. What do you want, Joanna? I'm pregnant. The words hit like a sledgehammer, but I kept my expression neutral. Congratulations. I assume Warren's the father. Her face flickered with something, disappointment that I hadn't reacted the way she'd hoped. Actually, no. Warren and I ended things months ago. Then who dash? It's yours, Dalton. I almost laughed. That's impossible, Joanna. We haven't been together in over 2 years. Remember that night last spring? When you came to pick up some of your tools from the old house. We talked, had a drink. One thing led to another. I stared at her, amazed at her audacity. That never happened. It did. You were lonely. I was confused about everything that had happened between us. We made a mistake, but now. She placed her hand on her stomach. Now we have a chance to fix our family. You're lying. Am I? She pulled out a sonogram photo. 12 weeks along. The timing matches perfectly. I studied the photo, then her face. She was good. I'd give her that. But not good enough. Prove it's mine, I said. Dalton, please. Think about Miles. He could have a little brother or sister. We could be a family again. We were never a family, Joanna. We were a man, a woman, and a child living in the same house while you planned your exit strategy. That's not fair, Dash. What's not fair is you sitting here, trying to manipulate me with another man's baby. Her composure finally slipped. It's yours. Then you won't mind a paternity test. Fine. But when it proves I'm telling the truth, I want you to consider reconciliation. For the children. The only thing I'll consider is making sure you don't use this baby the same way you try to use Miles. That evening, I told Miles about his mother's claim. He was 17 now, mature beyond his years, working part-time in my shop while finishing high school. Do you believe her? He asked. Not for a second, but we'll know for sure soon enough. Dad, even if it was yours, would you go back to her? I looked at my son, this young man who'd grown up watching me build something honest from the wreckage of his mother's betrayal. Never, I said. Some bridges can't be rebuilt, son. They can only be burned completely. 2 weeks later, the paternity test results arrived. As I'd expected, I wasn't the father. Joanna's final manipulation had failed, just like all the others. But this time, I didn't even call to tell her I knew. I just filed the results with my lawyer and moved on. Some people deserve an explanation. Others just deserve to be forgotten. 3 years after my divorce, I was putting the finishing touches on the biggest project of my career, a complete outdoor kitchen and entertainment area for a luxury resort outside Austin. Iris and I had been together for 2 years now, and she'd become not just my partner, but my business advisor, helping me expand Smokemaster Barbecue into high-end commercial installations. That's beautiful work, she said, standing beside me as I adjusted the final gas connection on a massive custom smoker. It should last 50 years, I replied. Like everything you build. Miles, now 19 and a sophomore at UT studying business, was working with me for the summer. He'd grown into a fine young man, honest, hard-working, with a natural talent for the craft. Dad, the resort manager wants to discuss 3 more locations, he said, walking up with his tablet. Says they've never seen craftsmanship like this. I looked around at what we'd built. Not just the smokers and grills, but the business, the reputation, the life based on integrity and quality work. What do you think? I asked Iris. I think we take the meeting, but only if they understand we don't cut corners or rush jobs. Agreed. That evening, as we sat on the porch of the house Iris and I now shared, watching the sunset paint the Texas sky orange and red, I thought about the path that had brought me here. Joanna's betrayal had nearly destroyed me, but in the end, it had freed me. Freed me from a marriage built on lies. Freed me to find someone who understood the value of keeping your word. Freed me to build something real with someone who deserved it. Any regrets? Iris asked, reading my thoughts the way she often did. About Joanna? None. About the pain it caused Miles? Some. But he learned important lessons about character and consequences. He turned out pretty good. Better than good. He's going to take over the business someday. Do things I never imagined possible. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. When I opened it, I saw it was from Joanna. Saw the article about your business in Austin Monthly. Congratulations. You deserve success. I showed Iris the message. Are you going to respond? She asked. I deleted the text without answering. Some conversations ended a long time ago. Later that night, as Iris slept beside me, I thought about the difference between what I'd had with Joanna and what I had now. With Joanna, everything had been built on shifting sand, promises that meant nothing, trust that evaporated the moment it was tested. love that was conditional on convenience. With Iris, everything was built on bedrock. When she said something, it was true. When she made a promise, she kept it. When she loved, it was with the full commitment of someone who understood that real relationships, like quality craftsmanship, required patience, skill, and absolute integrity. I learned that some fires destroy everything, while others just burn away what shouldn't have been there in the first place. Joanna's betrayal had been that kind of fire, painful, but ultimately cleansing. What rose from those ashes was something stronger, something built to last.